Chapter 1: The Girl Who Stayed Gone. Britney Summers had never thought of herself as dramatic, but the way she checked her rearview mirror every 30 seconds suggested otherwise. She told herself it was precaution, habit, muscle memory shaped by years of sudden departures and whispered warnings. Still, the longer she drove through streets she once knew better than her own reflection, the more the vigilance felt excessive. Nobody followed her. No unfamiliar cars lingered at corners. No one watched. That didn't stop her from parking 2 blocks away from her friend's house. Subtle, she muttered, grabbing her overnight bag. The late afternoon air carried the faint sweetness of cut grass and something fried from a nearby restaurant. 10 years, and even the smells hadn't changed. It was irritating how comforting that was. When the front door burst open before she even knocked, Britney startled hard enough to drop her keys. "Oh my God, you're actually here?" Lauren said, pulling her into a hug that knocked the air from her lungs. "Hi to you too," Britney managed, laughing despite herself. Lauren pulled back, holding her at arm's length as if verifying she was real. "You look exactly the same. That's biologically suspicious, but I'll take it. And you're still joking under pressure," Lauren said with a grin. "Good. I was worried the mysterious traveler persona would make you serious and intense. It's mostly just me avoiding questions." Lauren laughed and stepped aside. "Come in, secret agent." Inside, everything felt both smaller and brighter than Britney remembered. Familiar photographs cluttered the walls, a quiet timeline of a life that hadn't been uprooted every few months. Created an ache she didn't know how to name. Lauren tossed her keys onto the table. "Okay, rules for tonight. No disappearing halfway through, no sneaking out early, and minimal deflections when people ask where you've been." "That last one feels unrealistic. Try something vague but charming," Lauren suggested. "Make them jealous without giving them anything useful." "I've been exploring opportunities," Britney offered. "That sounds like unemployment with confidence." "Perfect, I'll use it." They exchanged a grin, the ease between them slipping back into place like no time had passed. The reunion was louder than Britney expected. Music spilled across the gymnasium, mingling with overlapping conversations and bursts of laughter. Strings of lights hung unevenly from the ceiling, giving everything a soft, slightly surreal glow. It felt less like stepping into a memory and more like stepping into a version of it someone had edited for nostalgia. "Ready?" Lauren asked, already waving at someone across the room. "As I'll ever be." Within minutes, Britney was pulled into a rotating circle of familiar faces. Names resurfaced slowly, then all at once. People hugged her, joked about old teachers, and asked the same question in different forms. "So what have you been up to?" "Just traveling," she said for the 4th time, smiling easily. "Never staying in one place too long." "That sounds amazing," someone said. "It sounds exhausting," someone else added. "It can be both," Britney replied. She kept her tone light, her answers polished. It was easier that way. Easier than explaining a life built on leaving. Hours blurred together until she found herself leaning against a table, sipping something sweet and unidentifiable, when a familiar voice broke through the noise. "Britney Summers? I was starting to think you'd turned into an urban legend." She turned to find Mark Jensen grinning at her. He looked older, of course, everyone did, but the same easy friendliness remained. "I prefer mythological figure," she said. "Seems about right," he replied. "You just vanished one day. Senior year plot twist." "Yeah, no kidding." He leaned beside her. "So what's been going on around the world of Britney?" "Oh, you know," she said lightly. "Very exclusive. Limited access. Figures," he said with a chuckle. "Well, meanwhile, back in our extremely boring town." He launched into updates: who moved away, who stayed, who changed in ways both expected and surprising. Britney listened, smiling at the right moments, letting his words wash over her. It felt strange, hearing about a life she might have had as if it belonged to someone else. "And Mrs. Ellison finally retired," he was saying. "About time too. She used to give homework like it was a competitive sport," Britney said. "Exactly. Oh, and you remember my grandma? The one who baked cookies for literally any occasion? That's the one." His expression softened slightly. "She passed last winter." "Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. Thanks. It was tough. But honestly, your dad helped out a lot after the funeral. Made things easier for my mom." The words slipped into the space between them so casually that it took a second for Britney to process them. "My dad?" she repeated. "Yeah. He came by, fixed a bunch of stuff around the house, made sure everything was taken care of." Mark shrugged. "He didn't have to, but that's just how he is, I guess." Britney forced a smile. "Right? Yeah. That sounds like him. Anyway, you should tell him thanks next time you talk to him." "I will," she said automatically. Mark nodded, already distracted by someone calling his name. Left alone, Britney stared into her drink as if it might offer clarification. The noise of the room dulled around her. "That sounds like him." The phrase echoed louder than the music. She didn't sleep much that night. Lauren had fallen asleep mid-sentence, her soft breathing filling the room. Britney lay awake beside her, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation over and over again. It was a small comment, an offhand remark. It shouldn't have mattered, except it didn't fit. The man her mother described, the man they ran from, didn't show up to help grieving families. He didn't fix things out of kindness. He didn't exist in quiet acts of generosity. But the man Brittany remembered, the one who made pancakes after nightmares, who never missed a chance to sit and listen, that man did. She turned onto her side, frustration tightening her chest. "You're overthinking this," she whispered to herself. She had trusted her mother. She still did. The fear in her eyes that day had been real. The urgency, the injuries, it all pointed to something undeniable. And yet, morning came too quickly. "I'm going out," Brittany said, pulling on her jacket as Lauren blinked awake. "Already?" Lauren mumbled. "I just want to drive around. See what's changed." "And by see what's changed, you mean investigate something you're not ready to admit yet?" Brittany paused, then sighed. "Maybe." Lauren studied her for a moment, then nodded. "Just be careful, okay? I always am." The old house was the first stop. Brittany slowed as she approached, her grip tightening on the steering wheel. It looked smaller than she remembered. The paint a different shade, toys scattered across the lawn. A little boy ran through the grass, laughing as someone called after him. It belonged to someone else now. Of course it did. She didn't stop the car. Instead, she drove aimlessly, following instincts rather than directions. Past familiar intersections. Past places that held fragments of memory. Each one added to the quiet unease building inside her. Eventually, she pulled into the parking lot of a place she hadn't consciously decided to visit. The diner. It looked almost identical. Same faded sign. Same wide windows reflecting the morning light. For a moment, she considered leaving. Then she saw him. He sat near the window, a cup of coffee in front of him, flipping through a newspaper like it was just another ordinary morning. Her breath caught. He looked older, yes. Lines where there hadn't been before. Slightly grayer hair. But he looked fine. Not like a man hiding. Not like someone consumed by anger or obsession. He looked exactly like someone living a quiet, uncomplicated life. Her hand hovered on the door. "This is a bad idea," she murmured. Then, before she could talk herself out of it, she stepped inside. The bell above the door chimed softly. He looked up, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Chapter 2, Pancakes and Strangers. The silence stretched just long enough to feel deliberate. Brittany stood near the door, her fingers still curled around the strap of her bag, as if she might need to leave quickly. The bell above her had barely stopped ringing, but the world seemed to have narrowed to the space between her and the man seated by the window. Her father folded his newspaper halfway, his eyes narrowing in mild curiosity rather than recognition. For a fleeting second, relief flickered through her. Maybe she could leave. Maybe this could remain a moment she almost had. Then his gaze sharpened. Recognition didn't arrive all at once. It built slowly, like light leaking through a crack. "Brittany?" Her name sounded cautious in his voice, like something fragile he wasn't sure he was allowed to touch. She swallowed. "Hi." He stood so quickly his chair scraped against the floor. It wasn't aggressive, just startled. A waitress glanced over before deciding it wasn't worth intervening. For several seconds, neither of them spoke. Up close, the differences were more obvious. Fine lines near his eyes, the quiet steadiness in the way he held himself. "You're..." He stopped, exhaled sharply, then tried again. "You're here." "I am." "That's..." He gestured vaguely, like words hadn't arrived yet. "Unexpected." "That's fair." A humorless laugh escaped him, more breath than sound. "You look exactly the same." "You don't," she said, then winced slightly. "I mean, you look good, just older. Obviously. That's how time usually works." That earned a faint, almost automatic smile from her. He gestured to the empty chair across from him. "Do you want to sit?" Every instinct she had developed over the past decade told her to say no. Keep distance. Control the exit. Instead, she sat. A waitress approached, pen already in hand. "Can I get you something?" "Coffee," Brittany said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Same as always?" the waitress asked her father. He blinked at her, then nodded. "Yeah, same." When the waitress left, the silence returned, heavier this time. He studied her carefully, not in a way that felt intrusive, but as if trying to reconcile who she was with who she'd been. I don't know where to start," he admitted. "Me neither." "That's new," he said softly. "You always had a question ready." "That was before," she replied, then paused. "Before everything." His expression shifted, something more serious settling in. "Yeah." He leaned back slightly, hands resting on the table as if grounding himself. "Where have you been?" The question was straightforward, but it landed with weight. "Around," she said. He gave a small nod, like he expected that answer and wasn't surprised to hear it out loud. "Okay. You're not going to push?" she asked, unable to hide her curiosity. "I could," he said, "but I get the feeling you'd leave if I did." She considered denying it, then decided against it. "Probably. Then I won't." That wasn't the reaction she had prepared for. I thought you'd be angrier, she admitted. About what? She let out a short breath. I don't know. About me showing up like this. About not. She stopped herself. About leaving? He supplied, his tone even. Yeah. He was quiet for a moment, his gaze dropping briefly to the table before returning to her. I was angry, he said. For a while. He shrugged lightly. Then it didn't seem useful anymore. That's it. Her voice carried more edge than she intended. You just decided not to care? That's not what I said. It sounds like it. He leaned forward slightly, his expression steady but not defensive. Caring and being angry aren't the same thing. She looked away, her focus shifting to the window. Outside, someone walked past with a dog, completely unaware of the conversation unfolding inside. You didn't try to find us, she said quietly. The words lingered between them. No, he said. The answer came without hesitation. Britney turned back to him, a mix of disbelief and something sharper in her gaze. Why not? His brow furrowed slightly, confusion more than defensiveness. Because I didn't know where to look. You could have called, she pressed. I did. Her expression faltered. What? I called both your phones that night. They were disconnected. He held her gaze. I tried a few more times over the next week. Same result. She stared at him, her mind struggling to align his words with what she had believed for years. You didn't come after us? I didn't know where after was, he said simply. The waitress returned with their coffee, setting the cups down without interrupting the tension. Britney wrapped her hands around the mug, more for something to hold than anything else. That's not what Mom said, she murmured. He went still. What did she say? He asked, his voice quieter now. Britney hesitated. She hadn't planned on saying it out loud. Not here. Not like this. But the question lingered, waiting. She said you hurt her, Britney said finally. That you were coming back and we had to leave. For the first time since she sat down, something in his composure cracked. Not in anger, but in something closer to stunned disbelief. I hurt her, he repeated slowly. She had a black eye, a bruised lip. I saw it. He exhaled, a long breath that seemed to carry years of unspoken confusion. I never touched her, he said. The certainty in his voice was immediate and unshaken. That's not. Britney started, then stopped, shaking her head. I saw it. I'm not saying you didn't, he replied gently. I'm saying I didn't do it. The distinction landed harder than she expected. You expect me to just believe that? She asked. No, he said. I expect you to believe what you saw. I just can't explain it the way you think I can. She searched his face for something. Hesitation, guilt, anything that might confirm the version of reality she had carried for so long. She found none. What about the money? She asked quickly. She took half the savings. Just left. I know, he said. I checked the account that night. And you didn't think to question that? Her voice sharpened again. Does that sound like something someone does if they're not planning to leave? He finished. Yes. He gave a small nod. It does. She blinked. What? It sounds like someone who made a decision before that day, he clarified. The simplicity of his answer unsettled her more than any argument would have. You're saying she had this planned? Britney asked, her voice quieter now. I'm saying I don't know, he replied. Because she didn't tell me anything. The words hung there, heavy and unresolved. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, unexpectedly, he let out a small breath of a laugh. This is not how I pictured this conversation. You pictured this conversation? She asked. I had 10 years, he said. I ran through a few versions. And none of them were this. None of them started with you walking into a diner like a plot twist. Despite everything, a small laugh escaped her. Yeah, she said. That tracks. The tension eased, not gone, but softened at the edges. He studied her again, something gentler settling in his expression. You look okay, he said. The simplicity of it caught her off guard. I am okay, she replied after a moment. Good. The word carried a quiet sincerity that didn't feel forced or complicated. It just was. Britney glanced down at her coffee, then back up at him. I don't know what's true anymore, she admitted. Then don't decide today, he said. You've got time. She considered that, her shoulders lowering slightly. Do you still come here a lot? She asked. Most mornings. She nodded, filing that information away before she realized she was doing it. Good pancakes, she added. The best, he said. Some things don't change. She huffed a soft laugh. No, she said. I guess they don't. Outside, the world carried on as if nothing had shifted. Inside, everything had. Chapter 3, The Shape of a Lie. Britney didn't go back to the diner the next morning. Not because she didn't want to, but because wanting to felt like the beginning of something she hadn't agreed to yet. Instead, she drove. She followed the same looping routes she had taken the day before, except now the town didn't feel like enemy ground. Felt unsettled, as if every familiar landmark had shifted slightly out of alignment. She parked near the small park where she used to spend hours after school. waiting for her dad to pick her up when her mom ran late. The benches were newer, the paint brighter, but the layout hadn't changed. She sat anyway. You're avoiding him. Britney didn't turn around. You're up early. Lauren dropped onto the bench beside her, holding out a coffee. You left your phone. I had to use basic investigative skills to find you. Or you just checked the only 3 places I'd go. Don't ruin the illusion, Lauren said lightly. Britney took the coffee, wrapping her hands around it. Thanks. They sat in silence for a moment, watching a jogger make their way along the path. So, Lauren said finally, are you going to tell me what happened yesterday? Or am I going to have to guess wildly and assume you accidentally joined a cult? That escalated quickly. I have imagination. Britney let out a small breath, staring at the ground. I saw him. Lauren turned fully toward her. Your dad? Yeah. And? Lauren asked carefully. And he doesn't look like someone we've been running from for 10 years, Britney said. He looks like someone who gets coffee at the same place every morning. That's specific. He said he never hurt her, Britney added quietly. Lauren didn't respond right away. He didn't get defensive, Britney continued, almost to herself. He didn't try to convince me. He just said it. And you believed him? That's the problem, Britney said, finally looking at her. I don't know. Lauren shifted slightly on the bench. Do you believe your mom? Britney hesitated. The answer should have been immediate, automatic, but it wasn't. I always have, she said. It never felt like a choice. And now, Britney took a long breath. Now it feels like I only heard half the story. Lauren nodded slowly, absorbing that. Okay, that's fair. Britney rubbed her temples. There are things that don't make sense. He said he tried to call us, that our phones were disconnected. They were, Lauren said. Britney blinked. What? The day you left, Lauren explained. I tried texting you that night. It didn't go through. Same with calling. A cold thread of realization slipped through Britney's chest. I thought maybe it was just me, Lauren added. Like you changed your number or something. No, Britney said slowly. We didn't change them. They were just gone. Then what he said checks out, Lauren pointed out gently. Britney stared at her coffee. He also said he didn't know where we went, she said. That he couldn't come after us because there wasn't an after to go to. Lauren tilted her head. Did your mom ever say he tried to find you? Britney opened her mouth, then stopped. No, she admitted. What did she actually say? She said he would, Britney replied. That we had to keep moving because he was looking. Lauren leaned back slightly, her brow furrowing. That's not the same thing. I know, Britney said quickly. I know that now. The distinction felt obvious in the light of day, but it hadn't been back then. Fear had blurred the edges of everything. Did anyone ever ask about you? Lauren asked. Britney frowned. What do you mean? After you left, Lauren clarified. Did anyone come around? Call me? Talk to my parents? Ask if I'd heard from you? Britney shook her head slowly. No one ever asked me anything, Lauren continued. And I would have remembered. I was fully prepared to lie for you, by the way. I had at least 3 different cover stories ready. Britney let out a faint laugh. That tracks. I thought I was doing something important, Lauren added with a small shrug. Protecting you. You were, Britney said softly. From what though? Lauren asked. The question landed harder than any accusation could have. Britney looked out over the park again, her mind racing through memories she had accepted without question. The hurried packing, her mother's fear, the constant moving always framed as necessary, urgent, protective. But from what? I saw her face, Britney said, her voice quieter now. The bruises, the way she looked at me. I'm not saying she was lying about being hurt, Lauren said carefully. I'm saying, maybe we don't know who hurt her. Britney swallowed. That thought had been circling the edges of her mind since yesterday, but hearing it out loud made it real. There's more, Britney said after a moment. Of course there is. Mark told me my dad helped his family after his grandma died, she said. Fixed things around their house. Just showed up and did that. Lauren raised her eyebrows. That sounds like the guy who used to coach half the neighborhood in backyard baseball. Exactly. And not like a guy secretly hunting his family across multiple states, Lauren added. Exactly, Britney repeated. They sat in that realization, the weight of it settling in slowly. So what are you going to do? Lauren asked. Britney didn't answer right away. The easy option was to leave, to go back to the version of her life where things were clear, even if they were complicated, where her role was defined, her choices limited but certain. But that certainty didn't feel as solid anymore. I think I need to keep talking to him, she said. Lauren nodded. That makes sense. I also need to talk to my mom, Britney added, though the thought tightened something in her chest. That might be harder. Yeah. You don't have to figure everything out at once, Lauren said. Just take it one conversation at a time. Britney let out a slow breath. One conversation at a time, she echoed. Lauren smiled faintly. Look at you, being reasonable. Don't get used to it. I won't, Lauren said. It wouldn't suit you. That earned a real laugh from Britney, the tension easing just a fraction. As they stood to leave, Britney glanced back at the park. It looked the same as it always had. But she didn't feel the same standing in it. For the first time in years, the past didn't feel settled. Felt unfinished. Open. And that was terrifying. But it was also, in a strange and unfamiliar way, hopeful. Chapter 4: Conversations That Never Happened. Britney went back to the diner the next morning. This time, she didn't hesitate outside the door. The bell chimed again as she stepped in, the familiar sound settling her nerves more than she wanted to admit. It was quieter than the day before. Fewer people, softer voices. The steady rhythm of dishes in the background. He was already there. Same seat. Same coffee. Same newspaper folded in half like the world hadn't shifted overnight. But when he looked up this time, there was no pause in recognition. "Morning," he said. The word was simple, casual even, but it carried an ease that hadn't been there before. "Morning," she replied, sliding into the seat across from him without being invited. "That's an improvement," he said. "What is?" "You sitting down without looking like you might bolt at any second." She huffed a small laugh. "Progress. I'll take it." The waitress appeared almost immediately, setting a coffee in front of Britney without asking. "Word travels fast," Britney muttered. "You used to come here every weekend," the woman said with a smile. "Hard to forget that." Britney returned the smile, though it felt more complicated now. "Fair." When the waitress moved on, a quieter stillness settled between them. Not awkward, just deliberate. "I almost didn't come back," Britney admitted. "I figured it was 50-50, he said. "Could have gone either way. And you just waited to see which?" "That's usually how it works with things I can't control," he replied. She studied him, trying to find where that calm came from. It didn't feel practiced. If anything, it felt like something he'd learned the hard way. "I talked to Lauren," she said. "Good," he replied. "She was always a good influence." "That's generous," Britney said. "She once convinced me we could train a squirrel." "Could you?" "No." "Then maybe not a good influence," he adjusted. The faint humor lingered for a moment before fading into the reason she was there. "She told me something," Britney continued, "about the day we left." He didn't interrupt, but his attention sharpened. "She said my phone stopped working that night," Britney said. "That she tried to call me and couldn't get through." He nodded slightly. "That matches what I saw. And nobody ever came looking," she added. A small crease formed between his brows. "What do you mean?" "She said no one asked about me," Britney clarified. "Not her, not her parents. No one showed up asking if she knew where I was." He leaned back slightly, absorbing that. "I didn't ask around town." "No," Britney said, her tone edged with surprise again. "No," he repeated. "I didn't think it was anyone else's business." She stared at him. "Your wife and daughter disappear, and you don't tell anyone?" "I told people you left," he said. "That was true." "And that was enough?" "It had to be," he replied. "I wasn't going to drag other people into something I didn't understand." The answer felt so different from what she expected that it left her momentarily off balance. "You really just stayed?" she asked. "I really just stayed," he confirmed. "No searching. No hiring someone. No anything." He shook his head. "I checked what I could. Bank accounts. Phones. When there was nothing there, I didn't see a next step that made sense." "That doesn't bother you?" she pressed. "It did," he said simply. "For a long time." She leaned forward slightly. "Then why stop?" He looked down at his coffee, then back at her. "Because chasing something without direction doesn't lead anywhere," he said. "And because at some point, I had to accept that if you wanted to be found, you would have left a way to find you." The words landed harder than anything he'd said so far. "I didn't," Britney started, then stopped. She hadn't left a way. Not once. "That wasn't my decision," she said quietly. "I know that now," he replied. The way he said it, without accusation, just as fact, made it harder to defend herself even though she didn't need to. Silence stretched again, heavier this time. "You said you never hurt her," Britney said, redirecting, though her voice carried more weight now. "I didn't." "She had injuries," Britney insisted. "I believe you," he said. "Then how do you explain it?" "I don't," he admitted. "Because I can't explain something I wasn't part of." She shook her head, frustrated. "That's not an answer. It's the only honest one I've got." She opened her mouth again, ready to push further, but something in his expression stopped her. Not resistance, just a steady refusal to fill in gaps with guesses. "You don't even have a theory?" she asked. "I've had a lot of time to come up with one," he said. "That doesn't mean any of them are right. Try me." He considered that for a moment, weighing his words. "If I give you a theory," he said carefully, "it'll sound like I'm trying to point the blame somewhere else. And I don't want to do that." "Why not?" "Because I don't know what happened," he repeated. "And I'm not interested in rewriting it just to make it easier to talk about." Britney leaned back, exhaling slowly. That, more than anything, felt real. No neat explanation. No attempt to steer her thinking. Just an absence where answers should have been. That's frustrating, she said. I imagine it is, he replied. She stared at him for a long moment, her thoughts spiraling through everything she had accepted as truth. It didn't feel like a clean unraveling. It felt like pulling on a thread that led in too many directions at once. You sold the house, she said suddenly. He blinked. Yeah. Why? He tilted his head slightly, as if the question surprised him more than it should. Because it was empty, he said. And because staying there didn't seem like a good long-term plan. That's it. That's it. She frowned. No emotional attachment? No holding on to it just in case we came back. He gave a small, almost self-aware smile. I considered it. For a while. And it didn't seem realistic, he said. You don't disappear for that long and then just come back like nothing happened. Britney looked down at her coffee again, her fingers tracing the edge of the mug. I just did, she said quietly. Yeah, he said. You did. There was no accusation in it. Just acknowledgement. I don't know what I'm doing, she admitted after a moment. Being here, talking to you, it feels like I skipped 10 years of something I was supposed to understand. You didn't skip it, he said. You lived it from a different side. That doesn't make it easier. No, he agreed. It doesn't. She let out a soft, humorless laugh. This is not how I thought this would go. You and me both. She glanced up at him. You really imagined this conversation? I imagined you asking questions, he said. I just didn't expect to still not have answers. That makes two of us. Another quiet moment passed, but this one felt less strained, more shared. Britney hesitated, then asked, Do you ever think about that day? He didn't look surprised by the question. Every once in a while, he said. Not as much as I used to. What do you remember? He leaned back, his expression shifting. Not distant, but reflective. I remember coming home, he said slowly. Everything looked normal until it didn't. Your room, our room, things missing. She held her breath, listening. I remember sitting on the bed trying to figure out what I missed, he continued. Because something like that doesn't just happen for no reason. And did you figure it out? She asked. No, he said. That was the problem. The simplicity of his answer cut deeper than anything more elaborate could have. Britney nodded slowly, absorbing it. For years, she had lived in a story with clear roles, clear danger, clear purpose. Now, she wasn't sure where the lines were drawn anymore. And for the first time since she left, she wasn't sure there had ever been lines at all. Chapter 5, The Cost of Belief. Britney didn't call her mother right away. She told herself it was because she needed more information first. More clarity. More certainty about what she was even asking. But the truth was simpler than that. She was afraid of the answer. Instead, she drove back to Lauren's house with her thoughts still tangled somewhere between what she had always known and what she was only just beginning to understand. The distance wasn't measured in miles, it was measured in trust. And right now that trust felt like it had cracks she couldn't ignore. Lauren was sitting cross-legged on the couch when Britney walked in, scrolling through her phone with the distracted focus of someone half waiting for news. Well, she said, looking up immediately. You went back. I did. And Britney dropped her keys onto the table, then leaned against the wall, exhaling slowly. He's consistent. That sounds like either a great sign or a deeply suspicious one. He doesn't change his story, Britney clarified. Not even a little. He doesn't try to explain what he doesn't know, and he doesn't try to fill in the gaps. Lauren tilted her head. That's rare. Yeah. Britney let out a quiet breath. I kept expecting him to slip up, to say something that didn't line up. But he didn't. No. Lauren watched her carefully. And that's bothering you. It should be easier if one of them was obviously wrong, Britney admitted. If I could just point and say, that's the lie. But it's not like that. She pushed herself off the wall and began pacing slowly, her thoughts catching up with her words. I spent 10 years believing one version of my life, she continued. Every decision I made, every place we moved, every name I used, was built on that. Lauren nodded. And now you're realizing it might not be the whole picture. Or it might not be the picture at all. The room fell quiet. That's a lot, Lauren said softly. It's more than a lot, Britney replied. It's everything. If he's telling the truth, then what have I been running from? What have I been giving up all this time? Lauren didn't rush to answer. That's not something you have to solve all at once, she said finally. I know. Britney let out a humorless laugh. But I can't just ignore it either. No, Lauren agreed. You can't. Britney sank onto the couch beside her, running her hands through her hair. We never stayed anywhere long, she said. Not long enough for anything to feel real. Every time I started to feel normal, she'd say it wasn't safe anymore. And I believed her. Of course I did. You were a kid, Lauren said gently. And then you weren't. But you'd already been living that way for so long it felt normal. It didn't feel normal, Britney corrected, her voice tightening slightly. It felt necessary. Like if I didn't follow the rules, something bad would happen. Lauren didn't argue. So I didn't make friends, Britney continued. Not real ones. I didn't keep anything that mattered because we might have to leave it behind. I didn't even use my real name half the time. That sounds exhausting. It was, Britney said quietly. But I thought that was the cost of being safe. And now you're wondering if it was actually the cost of something else. Britney nodded. She leaned back against the couch, staring at the ceiling. I keep thinking about him, she said after a moment. Not the version I've been picturing all these years. The one I saw in the diner. The guy who fixes things for people, Lauren said. Yeah, that guy. That's the one you remember from before, Lauren pointed out. I know, Britney said. That's what makes it worse. Worse. If he really is that guy, then I left him behind for nothing. The words came out sharper than she intended, edged with something dangerously close to guilt. Hey, Lauren said quickly, turning toward her. You didn't leave him. You went with your mom because she told you it wasn't safe to stay. That's not on you. But I never questioned it, Britney said. Not once. I just accepted it and kept going. You were trying to survive the situation you were in, Lauren replied firmly. That's not the same as making a choice with all the facts. Britney closed her eyes for a second, letting that settle. I should have seen something, she said. Like what? I don't know, Britney admitted. Anything. A sign that something didn't add up. Lauren shook her head. You were working with the information you had. Which came from one person, Britney said. And that person was your mom, Lauren countered. Someone you trusted completely. Of course you believed her. That doesn't make it easier, Britney said. No, Lauren agreed. But it makes it understandable. Britney opened her eyes again, staring at the familiar room around her. For 10 years, she said slowly, I shaped my life around a fear that might not have been real. Lauren hesitated. Or it might have been real to her. Britney turned her head slightly. What do you mean? I mean, maybe your mom believed what she was saying, Lauren explained. Even if it doesn't match what your dad says. That doesn't make it true. No, Lauren said. But it might explain why she never questioned it. Britney considered that. It didn't resolve anything, not really, but it shifted the angle of the problem. Made it less about intentional deception and more about something messier. Either way, Britney said, I need to talk to her. Lauren winced slightly. Yeah, that's going to be a conversation. Probably more than one. Definitely more than one. Britney let out a small breath, her shoulders tightening again just thinking about it. I don't even know how to start, she admitted. Start simple, Lauren suggested. Ask questions. Don't accuse. That sounds reasonable. That's because it is. And probably very difficult. That too. They shared a brief smile. Britney pushed herself upright, reaching for her phone on the table. She picked it up, then paused, her thumb hovering over the screen. This feels bigger than I expected, she said quietly. It is bigger than you expected, Lauren replied. But you're not the same person who left here 10 years ago. You can handle bigger things now. Britney looked at the phone again, then back at Lauren. What if I don't like the answers I get? Then you deal with that when the time comes, Lauren said. You're not running this time. The words landed with quiet certainty. Britney took a breath. No, she said. I'm not. She sat there for a moment longer, gathering the resolve she hadn't needed to find in years. This wasn't about packing a bag or leaving without explanation. This was about staying, asking, facing whatever came next. The phone felt heavier than it should have as she unlocked it. Then, before she could overthink it, she pressed the call button. As it began to ring, Britney realized something she hadn't fully allowed herself to consider before. For most of her life, she had believed that safety meant distance. Now, she was about to find out what it meant to stay. Chapter 6, Between Two Truths. The phone rang longer than Britney expected. Each second stretched, amplifying the weight of what she was about to set in motion. For years, calling her mother had been routine. Updates, reassurances, small talk wrapped around careful omissions. Nothing difficult. Nothing confrontational. This felt different. Hello. Her mother's voice was familiar in a way that immediately made Britney's chest tighten. Hey, Mom. Britney. The relief was instant, warm. I wasn't expecting a call this early. Is everything okay? There it was, the question that had always meant are we safe? Disguised as something casual. I'm fine, Britney said. Just had some free time. That's good, her mother replied. Did the spa help? You sounded like you needed the break. Britney closed her eyes briefly. Yeah, she said. It helped. A pause settled between them, not unusual. But this time, it felt like standing at the edge of something instead of waiting for conversation to fill itself in. What did you want to talk about? Her mother asked gently. Simple. Direct. Britney exhaled slowly. I've been thinking about things. From before. Another pause. Slightly longer. What kind of things? Her mother asked. The day we left, Britney said. The shift in tone was subtle, but unmistakable. We've been over that, her mother replied, her voice tightening just enough to notice. I know, Britney said carefully. But I was younger then. I didn't really ask questions. You didn't need to, her mother said. You trusted me. I still do, Britney replied quickly. That's not what this is about. Then what is it about? Her mother asked. Britney sat down on the edge of the couch, steadying herself. I just want to understand it better, she said. That's all. Silence answered her for a moment before her mother spoke again. It was a difficult time, she said. I don't know how much more there is to understand. You said he hurt you, Britney pressed softly. Do you remember exactly what happened? I remember, her mother said, a sharp edge creeping into her tone. I lived it. I'm not questioning that, Britney said, keeping her voice calm. I just want to know how it started. It doesn't matter how it started, her mother replied quickly. What matters is that it wasn't safe to stay. The answer came too fast, too practiced. It matters to me, Britney said. Another pause. Why now? Her mother asked. Because I saw him. Because he looks like the man I remember. Because nothing adds up anymore. I think I avoided it for a long time, Britney said instead. And now I don't want to. Her mother sighed softly, the sound carrying a mixture of weariness and something harder to define. Britney, she said, there are things in life you don't need to dig into, especially when they're already behind you. They're not behind me, Britney replied. They've been shaping everything. You're safe, her mother said firmly. That's what matters. From what? Britney asked. The question slipped out before she could soften it. The silence that followed felt heavier than anything else. From him, her mother said finally. Britney swallowed. He's still here, he had said. Living. Quiet. Not searching. What makes you sure? Britney asked. Her mother's tone sharpened. You saw what he did to me. I saw you hurt, Britney corrected gently. I didn't see him do it. That doesn't change anything, her mother snapped, then seemed to catch herself. I mean, it doesn't change what I told you. It might, Britney said quietly. Another pause, but this one carried tension under the surface. Has something happened? Her mother asked, her voice narrowing slightly. Did someone say something to you? Britney hesitated. This was the moment where she could keep things vague. Stay within the pattern that had defined their relationship for years, or she could step outside it. I'm in town, she said. The reaction was immediate. You're where? I came back for a few days, Britney said, keeping her voice even. For the reunion. I didn't tell you because I knew you'd worry. You knew I'd worry, and you did it anyway? Her mother said, disbelief and fear tangling together. I'm fine, Britney said quickly. Nothing has happened. That you know of, her mother shot back. Do you understand how dangerous that is? Is it? Britney asked before she could stop herself. Yes, her mother said firmly. Of course it is. Why? Britney pressed. Because he's there, her mother said, as if that explained everything. Britney closed her eyes again, steadying herself. I saw him, she said. Silence. The kind that didn't just linger, it pressed. What? Her mother said finally. I saw him, Britney repeated. At the diner he used to take me to. Her mother's breath caught audibly. Did he see you? She demanded. Yes. And, the word came out sharp, urgent. What did he do? He talked to me, Britney said. Like a normal person. That doesn't mean anything, her mother said quickly. People like that know how to act. People like what? Britney asked. Manipulative, her mother said. Convincing. You can't trust anything he says. Britney's grip tightened on the phone. He said he never hurt you, she said. The response came instantly. He's lying. It was so immediate, so certain, it almost felt automatic. He didn't hesitate, Britney said. He didn't try to convince me. He just said it. That's how they operate, her mother insisted. They make you doubt what you saw. I'm already doubting, Britney said quietly. That's why I'm asking. Her mother exhaled sharply, frustration bleeding through now. You don't understand, she said. You were a child. You didn't see everything. Then help me see it now, Britney replied. I don't want to relive it, her mother said. That's not the same as not explaining it, Britney countered. Another long silence. When her mother spoke again, her voice was softer, but no less guarded. Britney, she said. I did what I had to do to protect us. I won't apologize for that. I'm not asking you to, Britney said. I just want to know if there's more to the story than what I've believed. There isn't, her mother said. He hurt me. We left. That's the truth. The finality in her tone sounded like a door closing. Britney sat very still, her thoughts turning over everything that had just been said, and everything that hadn't. Okay, she said quietly. You need to leave, her mother added, urgency creeping back in. Go back to where you've been. Don't stay there any longer than you have to. I'm not in danger, Britney said. You are, you just don't see it, her mother insisted. Britney let out a slow breath. I'll be careful, she said. That's not enough, her mother replied. I need you to promise me you won't see him again. The request landed heavily. Britney stared ahead, her reflection faintly visible in the darkened screen of the TV. "I can't promise that," she said. Her mother went silent again, but this time it felt different. Hurt, fear, something deeper. "I don't understand why you're doing this," her mother said quietly. "I'm trying to understand," Britney replied. They sat on opposite ends of the call, the distance between them suddenly wider than it had ever been. "Just be careful," her mother said finally. "I will." The call ended a moment later. Britney lowered the phone slowly, her mind replaying every word. Her mother hadn't hesitated, hadn't wavered, hadn't explained. It didn't feel like clarity. It felt like a boundary. And for the first time, Britney realized she wasn't just standing between two versions of the past. She was standing between two people who believed completely different truths, and neither one knew how to meet her in the middle. Chapter 7, Relearning Home. Britney didn't go back to the diner the next morning. Instead, she waited until late afternoon. It wasn't intentional, not entirely. She had spent most of the day pacing Lauren's living room, picking up her phone only to set it down again, replaying yesterday's call with her mother until every word felt worn thin. She wasn't sure what she was supposed to do with it. There hadn't been any new answers, no revelation, just certainty on one side and doubt, growing, persistent, on the other. "You're doing it again," Lauren said from the kitchen. "Doing what?" "Wearing a path into my floor like it personally offended you." Britney glanced down. She had, in fact, been walking the same invisible line for the past 10 minutes. "Sorry." "Don't apologize," Lauren said, leaning against the doorway. "Just decide whether you're staying here to think or leaving to do something about it." Britney sighed. "That implies I know which one I'm doing." "It doesn't," Lauren said easily. "It just implies you should pick one." Britney hesitated, then grabbed her jacket. "That's my girl," Lauren said with a grin. "Go talk to him." "I didn't say that's what I was doing." "You didn't have to." The diner looked different in the evening. Not dramatically. Same booths, same faded sign. But the light had shifted, turning everything softer, quieter. Fewer people lingered inside now, conversations more subdued. He wasn't at the window this time. For a moment, Britney wondered if she'd missed him, if she had waited too long, hesitated too much. Then she heard his voice from the back corner. "Yeah, just tighten that and it should hold," he was saying. She turned to see him crouched beside a table, a small toolkit open at his feet. The leg of the table leaned awkwardly to one side. "Give it a second," he added, adjusting something underneath. "There we go." The waitress standing nearby laughed. "You don't even work here." "Doesn't mean I can't fix things," he replied, straightening up. Britney watched the exchange for a moment before he noticed her. "Trying out a new seat?" she asked, stepping closer. He looked up, surprise flickering briefly before settling into something more relaxed. "Hey," he said. "Didn't expect to see you not in the morning." "I like to keep things unpredictable," she said. "That's been established." She glanced at the table. "You always carry tools with you?" "Habit," he said, closing the kit. "You never know when something small is going to need fixing." "That sounds like a philosophy." "Sometimes it is." She smiled faintly, then motioned toward the seat across from him. "Mind if I sit?" "Go ahead." As she settled in, she noticed how natural it felt this time. The edge of hesitation was still there, but it wasn't as sharp. "You didn't come this morning," he said. "I needed time," she replied. "That makes sense." She studied him for a second. "You were here though, weren't you?" "Most mornings," he said. "Like I told you, right?" A waitress approached, raising an eyebrow at Britney. "Coffee?" she asked. "And pancakes," Britney added before she could second-guess it. Her father's expression shifted, just slightly. "Good choice," he said. "I remember them being good," she replied. "They still are." For a few moments, they sat in a quieter version of silence. Not empty, just shared. "I talked to my mom," Britney said finally. He didn't react dramatically, but his posture straightened a fraction. "How did that go?" "She hasn't changed her story." "I didn't expect she would." "She still thinks you're dangerous," Britney said. He nodded once. "That also doesn't surprise me." "She told me to leave," Britney added. "Not to see you again." "And you decided to ignore that," he said, though it came out more like an observation than a judgment. "I decided I'm allowed to make my own decisions," Britney corrected. A faint smile touched his lips. "That's fair." She hesitated, then added, "She believes what she's saying." "I figured," he said. "It'd be hard to keep something like that going if she didn't." That answer caught her off guard again. "You don't sound angry about that," she said. "I don't know what good it would do," he replied. "Being angry doesn't change what happened." "You say that like it's easy." "It's not," he said simply. "It's just where I ended up." She nodded slowly, absorbing that. The waitress returned with their food, setting the plate of pancakes in front of Britney. The smell alone stirred something familiar, a memory tied to safer, simpler moments. She picked up her fork, hesitating for only a second before taking a bite. "Well?" he asked. She chewed, then gave a small nod. "Yeah, still the best." Good, he said. They ate for a few minutes without talking, the simplicity of it oddly grounding. This is weird, Britney said suddenly. What part? All of it, she said, gesturing lightly between them. Sitting here like this, talking, eating pancakes. Yeah, he agreed. It is a little weird. But not in a bad way, she added. He nodded. I was thinking the same thing. She set her fork down, looking at him more directly. I don't know what the truth is yet, she said. Not completely. That's okay. But I know what this feels like, she continued. And this doesn't feel like the thing I've been running from. He held her gaze, something softer settling into his expression. I'm glad, he said quietly. She exhaled, tension she hadn't realized she was carrying easing just a little. I missed this, she admitted. Talking to you. I missed you, he replied. The words were simple, uncomplicated, and they landed deeper than anything else he'd said. Britney blinked, her throat tightening unexpectedly. You don't make this harder on purpose, do you? She asked lightly, her voice just a shade unsteady. Make what harder? This, she said, gesturing vaguely again. Not being angry, not blaming me, just being you. He shrugged slightly. I don't see the point in making it harder than it already is. That's very inconvenient. Sorry, he said, though he didn't sound sorry at all. She laughed, really laughed this time, and the sound felt unfamiliar in the best way. The conversation drifted after that. Small things, easy topics, the kind of exchanges that didn't carry the weight of the past in every word. He told her about the smaller house he'd moved into. She told him vague stories about places she'd stayed, careful but not entirely closed off. It wasn't perfect. There were pauses, moments where both of them seemed to remember how much had been left unsaid. But there was something else there too, something steady. As the evening wound down, Britney glanced toward the windows, the sky outside already darkening. I should go, she said. He nodded. Okay. She stood, hesitating just a second before adding, I'll probably come back. I'll probably be here, he replied. That tracks. She lingered for a moment longer, then gave a small nod. Good night, she said. Good night, Britney. She turned, heading toward the door, the bell chiming softly again as she stepped outside. The night air was cooler, quieter. For a long time, she had thought of home as a place she couldn't go back to. But as she walked down the street, something shifted. It didn't feel like returning to the past. It felt like discovering something new inside something old. And for the first time since she left, she wasn't planning how to leave again. Chapter 8. The kind of truth that stays. Britney didn't sleep much the night before she planned to leave. Not because she was restless, but because she wasn't. For the first time in years, her mind wasn't racing ahead to the next step, the next move, the next precaution. It stayed where she was, circling something quieter, something steadier. She lay awake in Lauren's guest room, staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the places she had lived that didn't feel like this. Temporary, interchangeable, safe but not settled. You look like someone about to make a decision, Lauren said the next morning, setting a mug of coffee in front of her. That obvious? You didn't pace, Lauren said. That's new. Britney wrapped her hands around the mug, considering her words. I think I've been waiting for something to click, she said. Some clear moment where everything makes sense. And it hasn't happened, Britney admitted. Lauren nodded. Yeah, life's rude like that. But something else did, Britney continued. Lauren leaned against the counter, listening. I realized I don't need everything to make sense before I decide what to do next. That also sounds like growth, Lauren said. It's annoying, Britney replied flatly. That tracks. Britney smiled faintly, then sobered. I'm not going back the way I came, she said. Lauren studied her. What does that mean? It means I'm not disappearing again, Britney said. No more constant moving. No more pretending my life depends on not being found. Lauren's expression softened. That's a big decision. It doesn't feel big, Britney said. It feels overdue. And your mom? The question landed gently, but it didn't lose any weight. I'm not cutting her off, Britney said after a moment. But I'm not going to live inside her version of things either. Lauren nodded slowly. That sounds like a boundary. It is, Britney said. I think it's the first real one I've ever set with her. Lauren smiled. I'm proud of you. Don't make it emotional. I refuse. They shared a quick grin before Britney stood, grabbing her jacket. One more stop, Lauren asked. Britney hesitated just long enough to make it obvious. Yeah, she said. One more stop. The diner was exactly where it had been all week. Unmoving. Familiar. The bell chimed as Britney stepped inside, and this time, she didn't even glance around to check the room. She already knew where he would be. He looked up as soon as she walked in. Hey, he said. Hey. She slid into the seat across from him without ceremony, the motion natural now. That's 3 days in a row, he said. I might start thinking this is a habit. Don't get comfortable, she replied. Too late. She smiled, but it faded quickly into something more thoughtful. I'm leaving tomorrow, she said. He nodded once. Okay. No surprise. No protest. Just acknowledgement. I wanted to tell you in person, she added. I appreciate that. She watched him for a second, noticing the same steady way he absorbed information without trying to control it. That's something you do, she said. What is? Let things be what they are, she explained. You don't push. You don't react more than you have to. He considered that. I used to react more. What changed? He shrugged slightly. Didn't like the results. That's fair. A small silence settled between them, but it didn't feel uncomfortable. I talked to my mom again, Brittany said. He didn't interrupt. She still believes you hurt her, Brittany continued. She didn't explain more. She just holds on to that. He nodded slowly. I figured. I don't think she's lying, Brittany said. I didn't think you would. But I also don't think that's the whole story, she added. He met her gaze, something steady and open in his expression. Probably not, he said. The simplicity of that answer settled something inside her. You're okay not knowing? She asked. Not knowing why it happened? He clarified. Yeah. He leaned back slightly, thinking before he answered. I'd rather not know than guess wrong, he said. Some explanations do more damage than not having one at all. She let that sit for a moment. That sounds frustratingly reasonable. I've been working on that, he said. She huffed a quiet laugh. I don't think I'll ever get a clean answer, she said finally. Probably not, he agreed. And I think I'm starting to be okay with that. That's a good place to land, he said. She nodded slowly. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then Brittany took a breath. I spent 10 years building my life around leaving, she said. Every choice I made was about not staying long enough for anything to matter. He listened without interruption. I thought that was what I had to do, she continued. That it was the smartest, safest way to live. And now, he asked. Now it just feels like I never gave myself a chance to have a life, she said. He didn't rush to respond. You've got time, he said after a moment. She smiled faintly. That's what you keep saying. It's still true. She looked down at her hands, then back up again. I don't know what this is going to look like yet, she said. Where I'm going to live. What I'm going to do. That's okay. But I know I want to stop running, she said. That's more important than where you land, he replied. She let out a slow breath, the words settling into place. I'd like to come back, she said. His expression shifted. Not dramatically, just softer around the edges. Back here? He asked. Yeah, she said. I don't know if it'll be permanent. Not yet. But I don't want this to be a one-time thing. He nodded. I'd like that too. And I don't want to pretend we can just pick up where we left off, she added. Because we can't. No, he agreed. We can't. But I also don't want to pretend this, she gestured lightly between them. Doesn't matter. It does, he said. The certainty in his voice was quiet, but unmistakable. So we take it one conversation at a time, she said. A faint smile crossed his face. That sounds familiar. Don't ruin it, she warned. I wouldn't dream of it. She laughed softly, then reached for her coffee, taking a small sip. I'm glad I came back, she said. I'm glad you did too. Another pause, but this one felt like something close to completion rather than uncertainty. Not resolved, but grounded. As the check arrived and they both made the unnecessary effort to reach for it at the same time, Brittany rolled her eyes. You always do this, she said. You always let me win, he replied. I don't let you win. Then I've been very consistent. That's one word for it. They shared a small, easy smile. Outside, the sky was clear, the late afternoon sun stretching long shadows across the pavement. When they stepped out together, there was a brief moment where neither of them moved to leave. I'll see you again, she said. It wasn't a question. No rush, he replied. I'll be here. That answer, steady, patient, uncomplicated, felt like something she could finally trust. Good, she said. She hesitated, then stepped forward, wrapping her arms around him. The hug wasn't awkward. It wasn't hesitant. It was warm, familiar in a way that felt new. When she pulled back, there was no need to say anything else. Brittany turned and began walking down the street, her steps slower than they had been when she first arrived, but not uncertain. Behind her, the diner remained where it had always been. Ahead of her, nothing was fully decided. But for the first time in years, that didn't feel like something to escape. It felt like something she could choose. And this time, she wasn't leaving to stay gone.